Welcome back to the Sad Dad Games podcast. I'm Shan.
I'm Eric.
I'm Tucker.
I'm Scott.
Today we're going to be talking about Death Stranding. We're going to be doing the prologue and episode 1, Bridget. Before we get started, please like, comment, subscribe, and you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And please also listen to Eric's Indie Corners on Thursdays. All right, so...
Before we jump in, should we introduce Scott? He's a new face to everybody.
Sorry, I was just kind of going, and
Shan's just super
Scott's
excited.
New.
Yeah, he Death Stranded the introduction stuff, if you will.
You are a beached whale right now.
Yeah,
and let's repatriate you into the group.
There we go.
All right, Scott. So I know Scott. I work with Scott as a developer and at a startup, and Scott also lives 2 houses away from me. And so that's how we've gotten to know each other over the last 5... How many years has it been?
I think it's been about 5 years by now.
Okay. Yeah.
Sounds right.
Okay. Anything you want to say about yourself? What are you interested in, games, stuff like that?
I've been gaming for most of my life, I would say. I'm a little bit different than you guys, though, because growing up I didn't have a console. I mostly just did computer games, a lot of DOS games, a lot of Apogee, Epic, Mega Games, those types of things. The first console that I got was a Nintendo 64. Played the heck out of that thing, then finally upgraded to an Xbox, and then mostly do PC gaming now, and really like indies, but every once in a while I'll pick up like a AAA game, and now I'm doing Death Stranding with you guys.
I love to meet a fellow fan of indie games. I think that a lot of my very favorite games are indie games, so I was super excited to learn that about Scott, that he's a big indie fan as well.
Yeah, and he's an elder millennial, so he's mostly into those like Doom and just classic stuff. And so I'm aware of that stuff. I'm not as versed, and so I can't like go head to head with him in conversation. But I'm trying to bring him over to stuff that I like, and we're trying to meet in the middle. But I helped get Scott back into some modern games. He had to upgrade his PC because of me. Your graphics card.
Oh no!
Because of Control.
What a bummer.
Oh no! That's
yeah,
terrible.
Control needs that little bit of extra.
So much physics.
Yeah, it was a good reason to upgrade.
Mm-hmm. All right, but yes. So he had mentioned just a couple weeks ago, Death Stranding. I tried picking it up. I want to get back to it, and I was like, well, that's funny because. That is timely. We have to get back to it before Death Stranding 2 comes out, because if we don't play and talk about Death Stranding 1 now, I don't think people are going to pick this up again for a few years or ever. So if we're going to talk about one of my favorite games and one of the densest games out there, now's the time.
Got to strike while the iron is hot. It's Death Stranding o'clock.
Yeah, because we know nobody really listened to Spider-Man because it is not timely.
Which is a bummer. It's just good stuff. We're objectively hilarious, and Spider-Man's a great game. So it's, not to, blame the listeners, but where were you guys? Like, come on.
You know what they say, timeliness is next to godliness.
Yep, I've heard that.
No. Yeah, that's what they say. And we did not nail it out of the park, as we've been saying with Spider-Man.
My favorite thing that's come out of any episode is when Tucker accidentally said nail it out of the park, and then we relentlessly mocked him for 5 or 10 minutes.
It's gonna be merchable at some point, but I don't think anybody would buy anything from us right now. My niece said that she would, but she has between $10 and $50 to her name. I'm like, please don't waste your money on us. Not right now.
You wait until the merch is really expensive, and then you can waste your money on us.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so Death Stranding. I'll get into it. Once there was an explosion, a bang which gave birth to time and space. Once there was an explosion.
Do it in your best Norman Reedus voice.
Yeah, it's not the same without Norman Reedus' voice.
Wait, okay, here we go.
The same gravitas, Jan.
Yeah. A bang which set a planet spinning in that space. Once there was an explosion. Like a bang which gave rise to life as we know it. And then came the next explosion. All right, so that wasn't great, but he's just like low and gravelly, just kind of,
it's one of those voices where if you don't have that voice, you can't do it. It's hard to mimic unless you just have that kind of voice, because it's so gravelly and But a bang. I love the opening to this game because it just kind of starts and he's just very vaguely talking about this bang and this, it really sets up this just weird tone of this game. This is a weird game. It's probably the weirdest game I've ever played.
Yeah. It immediately establishes tone and ambience, because like immediately after this, like you go to like seemingly post-apocalyptic, it's desaturated, and because it's overcast, and you get that like post-rock ambient electronic music, which is just like it's not music that I know. I'm not familiar with that world, but like it's sci-fi, but it's weird because like this game, it mixes genres in such an interesting way, because it's like post-apocalyptic, it's sci-fi, and it's also surreal. And sci-fi surreal is, I now understand, to be one of my favorite things out there, but there aren't very many things that do it or do it well. I've seen Annihilation. Art House isn't for me. That's not. It was awful for me. Nobody here knows what Annihilation is.
I haven't seen that one yet.
No.
Yeah, me neither.
Do you know what Art House is?
It's like artsy-fartsy, yeah.
It's artsy-fartsy, high art movies like Blade
Usually
Runner
very
and
slow
stuff.
paced.
I do like Blade
contemplative,
Runner,
and it's like very cerebral films that you watch it for the first time and you're like, either people hate it or they love it. They're very divisive types of films.
Yeah. And like I went into Blade Runner the first time and I'm like, this is going to be an action movie. This is going to be Harrison Ford at his most 80s. And then you get something that's completely different. And if you have the wrong expectations, it's hard to like anything. But Blade Runner, man, I had to rewatch that with new expectations. And then I loved it. Yeah. All right. So as you're cruising along on your motorbike, there's an inverted rainbow and rain falls that we find out later is time fall. And it ages Sam's hair. And crows fly away in the distance. All right, beautiful imagery. And I noticed after contemplating this, the inverted rainbow, you typically think of a rainbow as like a symbol of hope, and just like a storm has already passed, but here it's actually before the storm, and it's symbolizing a harbinger of something awful. And crows, a murder of crows go flying by. Like everything is a subversion of hope and happiness. This is bringing death.
Yeah, I really like the way that this game starts. I feel like it immediately sets the tone for just this very strange and surreal journey that you're going to be on. It's like nothing it behaves quite the way that you're expecting it to. Like you see a rainstorm coming and a raindrop lands on Sam's head and it turns his hair gray and you're like, that was really weird. And then he puts up his hood and then like crows are falling out of the sky and they're like, it looks like maybe it's acid rain because their feathers are falling off and their flesh is being like kind of becoming disgusting and gross and weird. But then you realize that it's making everything age. And so there's this rain that when it hits things, it makes things get older. And that's like the point for me where I realized I was like, oh, this is Hideo Kojima, the director of the game. This is him completely untethered from Metal Gear, from any kind of creative restrictions. It's just like, do whatever you want. And he's like, are you sure? It's going to be weird. And he just goes for it. It's absolutely bonkers, and I love every second of it.
Yeah, I played Metal Gear Solid, and it's like, I didn't get any sense that he was like this. Anyway, go on.
This opening sequence, just when you have your first interaction with the BT, is just, that's the hook. Where you have these enemies that Sam can sense but not see. And then you learn pretty soon after that he's one of a few people with a condition called dooms. And there's different level of dooms. Some can actually see the BTs, these, I don't know what you call it, how you describe them.
Invisible
that can kill you.
Murder monsters.
There are otherworldly, invisible creatures that seem to be trying to break into the world as we know it.
Yeah.
They have real big hands.
Real big hands. And Sam his body's covered with handprints from BTs, which is
from like
also
previous encounters. And
yeah.
Well, like, is it that? Because I think later they allude to this, because when he is in the Central Knot City with Deadman, Deadman says, are these stencils from Repatriating? And he said, yes, except for this one, and that one is red, and that's from a girl who's too clingy, which is fragile. So I don't know if that's like, I don't know, because when you see him
we'll
repatriate...
We'll do some research. We'll report back next time.
You don't see
there's just so much in this and so much symbolism and just so many little things like that. It's just so hard to follow.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going linearly. So, crows are falling from the sky. They're all dying. Rain, brings life, but here it's, it will kill him. And so another subversion there. But it's also fun seeing that juxtaposed with it giving life to the natural world. So it's almost like it's restoring, it's like killing off all these man-made things and restoring life to the organic. So that's interesting.
Well, and sorry, you go ahead, Scott. I had a thought wrong.
No, I just wanted to ask about that because I was trying to look closely and I couldn't tell if it was just accelerating the natural life or if it was bringing it up. I couldn't tell if things were popping up, growing, blossoming, and then dying, or were they just blossoming? I couldn't tell.
No, that's what I wanted to talk about. Is I love when the timefall is happening and it zooms in on the ground. You see plants that are growing really quickly and then dying right afterwards, and it's this cool effect because it's it is aging those plants in the ground or whatever to make them grow and then die immediately. And I think it's such a weird visual effect that I'm super into. Very cool. Very cool stuff.
Right, you see a BT, an invisible monster, give chase to you on your motorcycle, and these handprints are splashing in black ink, which I think we later discover it's liquidized Chiralium. That's what I assume the black ink is. All right, so after he jumps over a cliff, there's a crying woman under an umbrella. It's fragile, and he gets, he crashes because of this, but she blips out of existence. And I noticed that this is
rude. Look where you're going, fragile.
Well, she was already there. He was the one going. She was planted firmly in place.
Yeah.
I'm more of a blended pedestrian kind of a driver. So
I see. But I noticed that her disappearing is a similar vibe to when Dead Man disappears while he's a chirogram. And so but she's not a chirogram. She's in her physical state. So I didn't know if, it has to be related to Chiralium in some way that she's able to disapparate this way.
I have a vague recollection of plot points later in the game explaining exactly how she does that, but I don't remember.
Yeah, let's not talk about the future. We're talking about this as we go.
Yeah.
So I can't remember it all, so I'm going to theorize right now. Because it's revealed that she has a more advanced form of Dooms. Advanced form? Is that the right phrase? She has a more serious case of Dooms. I can't tell if Dooms is a good or a bad thing.
Dooms, it's just it's your proximity to the other world, it seems to be. Or the way you can sense the presence of the other world encroaching on our world.
Yeah, because Fragile has a more progressed form of Doom.
She has level 3, he has level 2. We don't know what level 1 is.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was going to ask, if we knew what level she was at, because she does ask Sam what level he is, and he responds by saying he can sense him but not see him.
Yeah, so I think
she's level 3. But I don't think she revealed at that point what level she had.
I think she's level 3 because when she says she can see them, which implies, yeah. Anyway,
unless she's level 4.
Later, he plugs into a bridge baby, and that bumps him up a level to be able to see. So I think that means he's now up 1 level.
Oh yeah, he can. That's right.
Bridge baby
that allows him to see
1 level.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't. You're right. It doesn't specifically say that, but in gameplay, once you plug into BB, sorry, getting ahead of ourselves. We'll get to that, but yeah. So also, can I take a sec to? I think that the BTs, just through their creepy handprints and sound design, are just by those 2 aspects alone, are some of the most creepy, unsettling monsters I've ever faced in a game. In this cutscene where these big oily handprints are just appearing out of nowhere, and you hear these otherworldly guttural growls and shrieking and stuff that sounds like it's coming from around you and everywhere all at once. It's they're very effectively unsettling enemies in a way that only Kojima can be. I'm a super big fan of the design of the BTs.
Well, and especially where it immediately shows you crawling up a wall and
it's up the
overhead.
wall
It's
and the
just
ceiling, and it's just
they're not tethered by gravity.
Yeah, is it walking on its hands, but it's inverted gravity? Like, what is this thing? Or is it just
Also,
a hand monster?
teeny tiny steps, though. They're all super close.
It's like centipede.
It doesn't have a very long stride. It's
a
tiptoeing
slow
around.
So they're like this tall. They just have massive feet.
Probably run away pretty quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that. It's like, how... I was questioning myself, how can you separate what automatically feels sci-fi from surrealism? Because sci-fi already allows you to do just kind of whatever you want, but I guess it has to be tethered to science of some kind, whereas surrealism, it's like you take something normal and you subvert it in some way. And so... Yeah,
I think physics is a big thing. That to me
good.
is where I draw the line is, sci-fi... Outside of, space, obviously, there's still physics in space. But surrealism...
Science fiction has subverted physics. Okay.
But I think there's this lack of, object permanence with surrealism. That's kind of my go-to of, fragile just being able to materialize and leave. And BTs coming out of nowhere. Things like that.
For me, what makes things feel surreal is when there is an essence of familiarity, but that something that has an essence of familiarity, but it is drenched in an enveloped in an exterior that is completely foreign. Timefall is a great example. We've all seen rain. We've all gotten wet in the rain. So you see the rain and you think you know what's happening, and then it's just something completely different and weird that has never occurred to you before. And so that for me is what makes things feel surreal. And we talked recently about Majora's Mask. I think that's another... Majora's Mask has a lot of things that feel familiar, particularly if you've played Ocarina of Time before, but they do they take that familiarity and they twist it into scenarios and character traits that you aren't expecting, and it gives everything this kind of otherworldly, floaty, strange kind of a feel. And Death Stranding does that constantly at basically every turn. As soon as you think you understand how the world works and how you think you kind of get what's going on, it throws another thing at you that is oh, nope, actually it's still very weird and strange and foreign to how you understand the world.
Yeah. Also, surrealism seems to typically be tethered to a subversion of human nature. So, not exclusively, but it is easier to take something that is human and do something really uncanny and weird with it and be like, I'm uncomfortable with that. I don't want to look at it. And so
Case
hands,
in point.
Walking,
BB.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Hand for a head. I don't want to see that.
Don't like that. Yeah.
Right.
Umbilical cord coming out of that. We'll get to that guy.
Anything with an umbilical cord in any kind of media, you're just I'm all immediately uncomfortable by that. Not something you see in everyday life very much at all.
Yeah. All right, so you go to wait out the timefall in a cave, and you have handprints on your back when you move your jacket. So this hand monster seems to be grabby, but maybe it's part of the repatriation process that we don't understand, and BTs are trying to claw you back to that other world as you're trying to repatriate. Could be something like that. I don't know. We haven't figured it out. All right, so a picture floats away as he's half undressed, and we find out that the older woman in this is Bridget, and so I thought this was odd. Okay, so he doesn't we find out later he hates Bridget, his own mom, but he has this picture of her, and so we have to assume that it's primarily because, maybe he has
hidden,
is it
of Bridget
reserved...
and Amelie, or is it just Bridget?
We don't know the other person because timefall has fallen on it and aged
right.
it to the point that you can't tell what it is, but it's a pregnant woman, and so you don't know, is this his wife, is it someone else, but with his mom, I think it implies that it's his wife. And that maybe, does he have a kid? I don't know what's going on. Right. So is he carrying the picture because of the woman that he can no longer even see in the picture? Or is there some kind of shared fondness of that woman that he also has for his mom still that he is keeping to himself? I don't know. What do you think?
It
was also his hair was shorter. Maybe he was fonder of that time.
Yeah, he likes the shorter haircut. He misses how it looked, and so that's why he keeps the picture. Now, I think that there is some level of, at least how Eric's headcanon, I think there's some level of fondness for Bridget. He wants to be mad, but that's still the woman that raised him, and you kind of get little inklings of that later on when he has a conversation with her, and just like later on in this chapter. You kind of like, you get this sense that there's some fondness there. It's buried deep, but
I'm gonna go a little more macro here, just on the theme of the game. We see connection as a very strong theme from the get-go with Death Stranding, and so this time going through the game, just having that in the back of my mind, to me it represents his connection to the past. That's who he was. That was his family, and so I think it's more symbolic than an actual, I guess, character choice. I think both can be true, but I think the placement here is more so on a connection versus how he feels about Bridget and his mom.
At the end of this encounter with Fragile, she does say, like, timefall can't wash away the past or something like that. So maybe there is just, like, he has something painful about his past he can't let go of. I don't know. All right, but yeah, as he goes to reach for it, timefall falls on his hand, it wrinkles, and you see that he has a skull tattoo. I don't know what it means. I thought maybe it was referring to him being a repatriate, but I don't know. I don't think it's ever
thought it had
elucidated.
something to do with him being a repatriate or some kind of a dooms marking.
Does Norman Reedus have that tattoo in real life?
He has tattoos. I don't know what he has.
Because, yeah, they do a really good job of taking in their actors and bringing in so much of their actual physical likeness into this game, which is too bad for Guillermo del Toro. But
yeah, Dead Man. Those scars are real. He really got a brain transplant.
So I don't know if it happened before or after, but it does look like Norman Reedus has that skull tattoo on his hand.
Oh, so that's just real. Okay.
It could just be.
Maybe he had that before they started, or maybe he got it because of
I could see him getting it because of it, but it's hard to say.
Could be.
Yeah.
All right,
also, talking about their likenesses, I want to take a second to just like the character models and the facial animation in this game are like, I think the only time I've ever seen it done better in a game is The Last of Us. This is like some top-notch, next level, excellent animation work, excellent character models, just so incredible.
And they licensed the Decima engine, so this is the same engine that was used for Horizon games. And those games had terrible NPC face models that they have now fixed.
Really pretty games with really stiff NPCs, yeah.
Except for the protagonists and
I think Forbidden West. I haven't played Forbidden West, but Forbidden West was apparently a lot better in that department. But
in the remastered of Horizon, they went back and redid all the NPCs. Very impressive undertaking.
Oh yeah, very cool.
Yeah, so talking about the facial expressions specifically, there is a point in your first interaction with Fragile where she smiles and I think extends her hand or something, and it's a really creepy smile. And it's fairly early in the game, and I couldn't tell at that point if it was bad animation, and a bad engine, or if she's just really kind of creepy and does not smile with her eyes. Yeah, just a bad smile.
Non-Duchenne smile.
Yeah, I mean...
yeah.
You can't really tell with Fragile. She's a, friend or foe at this point. She's it's a very mysterious figure, so, yeah.
I mean,
I couldn't get that out of my head.
She's a good actress. She was like in Mission Impossible and stuff. Like she's a quality actress. So I gotta think that was intentional. Yeah.
Also, isn't she in the last James Bond movie with Daniel Craig?
Oh, James Bond too. Yeah, I think she was in both, but James Bond I think is what she's more known for.
Interesting.
I hope I'm not wrong about Mission Impossible, but I'm not going to look it up right now because I'm talking. I also wanted to point out as I was going through this, I had forgotten that this game had been so seminal in like in mocap and actor performance, and so I went back and I looked into this. So back in 2007, we get Uncharted: Drake's Fortune and Mass Effect. So Uncharted gets fantastic new voice acting and mocap that had never been done. So Naughty Dog was kind of pioneering in mocap. Mass Effect, facial animation and mocap. So they were also pushing the boundaries there. 2010, 2013, same studio did Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls with formerly Ellen Page and Willem Dafoe. So I think that was like the first, as far as I know, like full performances by real actors in a game. But that was still very rare, and it wasn't done a lot after that for a little while. The Last of Us, Naughty Dog again, had full performances. This was very rare. You get those two actors, Troy Baker and
Nolan North.
No, the girl.
Oh, Laura Bailey.
Yeah, so you get those two in there, giving the full performance to the full game. That was actually pretty spectacular and unheard of. I don't even know if it was done to that same degree with like Beyond Two Souls. Do you remember though being in college and them releasing Call of Duty: Advanced Warfare with Kevin Spacey, and how mind blowing it was that an actor
that's
was
Kevin
in a game?
Spacey. He's a real Hollywood actor. Yeah,
not anymore.
Well, it was a simpler time before we knew all of the bad things about him.
Yeah. Actually, also, didn't he get off on that? Like,
he got off hard.
Yeah.
No, he got exonerated. I don't know if it was just like a deal or whatever, but at that point it's like, now he's whether or not he was fully guilty, he is scarred for life. So I don't think he can come back to acting. That's why we got to let things play out in court instead of trying them in the public court of opinion. All right, moving on. So.
Shan was this close to going down. Yeah.
So close.
This close.
All right. Until Dawn, Rami Malek, Hayden Panettiere, Bretton Dalton in 2015. 2017.
Rami Malek was in Until Dawn?
You didn't know he was in Until Dawn? He's the best part.
I haven't played Until Dawn. Yeah.
Okay, well, the movie or show, it's coming out in like a couple months. You should probably watch it or play it first. Horizon Zero Dawn. It had Ashley Birch do the performance for what's her face, but Lance Reddick was Aloy. But Lance Reddick was just actually himself.
He's
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Yeah.
R.I.P.
All right, so then 2019, Death Stranding, Norman Reedus, Mads Mikkelsen, the whole cast is actually performed. So I hadn't remembered when I played this game for the first time. I missed most of those other games before this. This was like real actors in a real game, and they were the whole game performing out the whole thing. And so this was groundbreaking, and it was a stacked cast. Kojima can get whomever he wants because he's just, I don't know, he's like the Christopher Nolan of video games.
Yeah, if Christopher Nolan were absolutely bonkers. I love Hideo Kojima, but that man, for the better, has a couple of screws loose. And I'm so glad that he does, because we would be deprived of his insane creativity if he didn't.
All right, so we're back in the cave still. Your hair stands up, you get goosebumps, red skin. So these BTs, as they approach, the temperature drops. So kind of ominous of like your, proximity to the other world that is more lifeless. It feels like that's what that's representing. The hands move by. It's climbing on the wall. Fragile. She grabs your arm to keep you quiet, and after the monster leaves, she sheds a tear. You find out this is a chiral allergy. She shares this with Sam, and just about everybody has this chiral allergy. Everybody's crying throughout this whole thing.
So many tears.
Bunch of babies.
And then you see at the egress of the cave, you see 5 translucent figures hovering in the air, with strands coming from their limbs, and then they disappear into the rain. And so, foreboding, we don't know what they are yet, but we see those same figures on the beach later, after he dies from the BT explosion. So, but they have become fully opaque. So, that being his death, they're fully opaque there, but here they're translucent because they're not of this world, like the BTs. Yeah, I love that, like, Sam crying because of dooms. Like, it's very evocative of melancholia, and like, even though he's not actually sad, like the way that that's able to provoke that emotion in you, it was a fantastic artistic choice, because they just wanted this somber tone throughout this whole game, and that just like it makes you feel that for the character, and also endears you to him as a character.
Well, I also think it's a really cool way of setting up like this level of sadness is everyday life for these characters. It's so to them it's no big deal, but to us, where crying, I'm not gonna say taboo, but where crying is a more rare occurrence, it's more symbolic of heartache and trials and troubles and overall negativity. To them, that overall negativity is just a part of life. And so for me, it really sucks me into that world of like just even more into the ambiance. So there's a great job setting up the visuals here, but we get a little bit more of an emotional ambiance at this point.
What else do you feel they've done, or he's done very successfully at the beginning of this game to set the atmosphere? How have they established it, and what are they establishing as far as that goes?
I kind of spoke to it earlier, but I think they do a really good job of just kind of throwing you into this world that you don't really understand because the rules are so different from our own world. So it immediately sets the tone as this is going to be a very strange, surreal experience, and to kind of like pay attention, buckle up, assume that you don't understand anything, kind of a thing. So that's the vibe that I got, even after having played this game before. Playing it again this time, it was like I was like, all right, we're into it now. Get ready for this experience where you don't understand anything and have to kind of figure things out as you go.
Yeah, another thing that stood out to me is that this is far in the future and we're dumped in this world and it's beautiful. We just see mostly nature. It doesn't look like a post-apocalyptic world. We're not looking at a decimated city or anything like that. We're looking at beautiful landscapes. The game itself is just gorgeous, and so is the landscapes. And then we see this futuristic motorcycle, that seems really, really out of place. And then when you enter the cities and these other establishments, it's this stark difference. You're in, raw nature that looks completely untouched, and then you're in just like a fully metal, like developed city. Just it's almost instant. Very futuristic to raw, untouched land.
Yeah, it really there's this contrast of like this is completely built by humanity, and humanity is a foreign object in this actual nature. Which, as throughout the game, as you leave cities, there's that level of I don't belong here type of feeling that happens.
You feel like a kind of a mote of dust floating through this world that doesn't care anything about you.
Yeah, and that transition is very, very fast. It's not gradual.
Yeah, there's no suburbs you're going through. It's just
nature, and then not all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It's what it's like living in North Carolina. There's just trees everywhere, and then you turn a corner, and all of a sudden, buildings. Yeah.
Yeah. I love, fantastic wide shots just from the beginning, just to establish the setting, but it also helps, focus on Sam and his isolation out there, but he's also like quiet and confident while he's out there. And I love that, like, as he's driving along with that confidence, they're playing that ambient music, and the beat to it and the drive to it feels like there's this quiet determination that they're trying to invoke with that music, as if like, yes, he's alone, but he's okay with this and he wants it, and this is where he's in his element. And there's also like an element of like survival that feels like is being pushed with that music. Like you just got to keep going. But yeah, then you get the overcast, you get the desaturation, so there's that melancholy. You feel like death is all around, and so just tonally, like everything feels bleak, and that which is interesting as the timefall is occurring, and that's like accelerating the organic expansion of life, but you just feel like there's still just death surrounding you, and you're encumbered by it. Yeah, so let's see. Does this story feel inspired by anything that you personally know yet? Or because for me it was like, as soon as I got into this, like I don't have any reference for this. This is new.
No. My favorite thing about Death Stranding is that in a world full of recycled ideas, which there's nothing wrong with recycling ideas if you put your own twist on it or whatever. But in a world full of recycled ideas, Death Stranding feels like it is a beacon of like legitimate, real, creative originality. There's nothing quite like it. There has never been anything quite like it. It's so creative and unique that it kind of stands on its own. It's its own thing, and there's not a lot of reference points to other media, like as far as story goes, as far as gameplay goes. It's just so completely detached from other experiences that I've had in media that it's like nothing I've ever played before. It's very unique in that way.
What's fascinating is that he's actually incredibly well versed on old media, and everything that he uses is inspired by old sci-fi and old books and stuff like that. It's just that he is drawing on content that you've never heard of, and he knows that nobody's heard of, and he's able to like pick and choose all of his favorite things. And he doesn't even he's not even subtle about referencing it. The Odra deck is a reference to a book by Kafka, and I'll get into that later, but I know you're gonna say Blessed.
Who is
Kafka?
Kafka? I don't know him. Yeah.
So it is inspired, like all of these things are directly influenced by stuff, but it's just like not stuff that is in the zeitgeist. So he just like is all over the place reading some of the weirdest stuff out there, and he's got a mind that can freely associate all these things into his own creativity. But it's also interesting that it's like this feels wholly unique and creative, even though it's like a tapestry of other creativity, and that's actually the source of why it feels creative is because he used everything else to inspire it. I thought that was interesting.
I was going to ask if you guys are familiar with chirality in chemistry.
Mm-hmm. It's like a mirror opposite that can't be superimposed on itself.
Right, yeah, so it's not a word made up for the game itself.
Okay. As if I didn't look it up yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of talks about like handedness of molecules and things like that, kind of like mirror images. And how did you say it, Jan? I don't know enough about it to speak too intelligently about it. I'm just aware of what it is.
Yeah, you can like imagine like a 3D molecule, how it would look in a mirror, but but if you were to take that mirror image and take it out of the 2D plane, they would be impossible to superimpose on each other because as 3D objects, they are complete opposites of each other. And that's chirality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm aware of that concept. I didn't know that that's what chirality was, though. Interesting.
And so whenever they use the word chiral, and like the chiralium is in Timefall, it does feel like that is representing there is a mirror world that is 100% opposite and not imposable on our world, but is living fictitiously with ours.
Yeah. And it seems at this point they found a way to kind of tap into that energy somehow, because it seems to be all over the place.
Yes. So Timefall is like, it's there when the other world is trying to creep into ours, and that's when Chiralium just sort of seeps into our world, and these beach things come with it.
Yeah, and so at this point in the story, I'm curious about what caused what. Did some event happen, and then all of this stuff came, and chiral energy was found, or did they start using this chiral energy, discover or whatever, and it brought about this event, kind of like with the Doom lore and trying to take advantage of hell energy, and then something went wrong and it brought all the demons, that kind of thing.
We'll get to it later, but Igor, as you're going out with him for corpse disposal, he does talk about like the world used to be as we understand it, with planes, trains, and automobiles. And then the Death Stranding event took place, and the beach things encroached in our world and brought everything that was awful with them.
Okay.
All right, so let's move on. This is technically where the prologue starts, and it's called Porter, which is Sam's,
his like title. He is a porter.
Yeah, he is a porter, yes. And later he adopts the other name Bridges, so he has a Sam Porter Bridges, but his real name is just Sam. All right.
Yeah,
so,
instead of a surname, I think people go like have their position or like what they do.
I thought we heard his surname.
Did we?
Oh, maybe I might be remembering that wrong.
Yeah.
All right.
Let us know in the comments if we're wrong. Tell us how we blah blah blah.
Come
blah.
cancel us for getting your
These
franchise
guys are
wrong.
They don't even understand that Sam's real name is.
They go one of
Davis.
many things wrong. I'm sure we got many things. Before we move on, I did want to point out that whole intro was done without words. Very spectacular directing, and it felt like he was trying to get you to focus on all the visual storytelling because there were so many details that you were supposed to observe and absorb.
Yeah, I don't think anyone says anything until after the BT leaves.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so after that, the prologue starts, and they're crying. This is the chiral energy. They both have dooms. Sam says he has the extinction factor, but he thinks that she has him beat. So the extinction factor is the ability to sense the otherworldly presence. And so this is what we were talking about earlier. He has level 2, she has level 3, presumably, where she can see, but he can sense. All right. Let's see. Her name is Fragile, and he has heard of her, and vice versa. So they are, at least in the porting business or the courier business, they are very prominent figures. Her being of the Fragile Express, and him just being this lone ranger that is just excellent at his job. Later, the woman in glasses who looks like April Ludgate with glasses, she says he's, I think she calls him the legend or something like that, but he's legendary for what he does. He never doesn't deliver, and it's probably because he's a repatriate, so he just never dies. So
he's the best post-apocalypse mailman there is. If you need your he's like end of the world.
Fragile's FedEx.
Yeah.
He is, I don't know. He's Mr.
Whatever
Auspice.
a one-person version of
no,
FedEx
she's
would be.
Auspice. He's FedEx.
Yeah.
That's the best I can do.
Fragile calls him Sam Porter, the man who delivers, right?
That's it. That's
Delivers,
it.
yep.
Mm-hmm. All right, she drops her bag, and tardigrades, which are called cryptobiotes, fly out. Now, I looked into this. This was obviously, these water bears. This was obviously very intentional that they look like tardigrades, and I thought this was fascinating. Tardigrades can go into what's called cryptobiosis. And so this is a state, they can enter cryptobiosis where their metabolism shuts down and they are nearly indestructible until rehydrated or revived. Here they restore his blood levels after timefall, and they resemble tardigrades to represent their indestructible nature in timefall and their ability to restore life after basically anything.
Can I tell you a secret? I had never done any kind of research or thought into what in the world these little things were. I just understood the basic purpose that they served in the world. And playing the game this time, I was like, I wonder, I should Google it and like write some stuff down. And then I was like, no, Shan's going to do that. I know that Shan's going to he's going to look something up and he's going to have an answer. And whatever I find isn't going to be as interesting or well thought out. So thanks for being prepared on that one. I appreciate it because I was not.
Scott seemed to have looked into this as well, right?
Eric and I really half-assed this.
Were aware.
I was aware of him before the game, so I recognized him.
Okay.
Just tardigrades are endlessly fascinating. They're really neat little creatures. Yeah, and they're pretty much indestructible. They're amazing.
I did not know about the cryptobiosis, though. That was new. And they were discovered like late 1700s or something under a microscope, and they can be found everywhere, but they were found in moss because that's one place that they reproduce is like in mossy areas. And at their very, very biggest, maybe you can see them at a couple micrometers, millimeters or whatever, but they're super small, so you're unlikely to see them, but they can survive in the vacuum of space and everything. Fantastic. But also you see them floating here. Now we see a lot of things randomly floating around the presence of BTs, so they seem to have some sort of connection to that ability where
I don't
they
think
are
it's just
connected to the
BTs.
other
I think
world.
it's chiral in general because
yeah, okay.
Yeah, you get there's floaty keys all over the place.
The Cupid.
Yeah.
The floaty what?
The Cupid.
I can't remember.
That you get later, the thing that Sam goes around his neck. Is that in this chapter? Or is that in the next one?
No, it's not. No.
Oh, well, never mind.
But yeah, no, also he has dooms, and like when he hovers over the dead person's strap, he can get that to float. So I wonder if this is level 1 dooms. You can kind of like...
You kind of levitate things?
Levitate things if they are approaching the other world.
Is that what Dua Lipa is singing about?
Also, the BT, as it's like walking around
Thanks
the
for kind of
cave,
laughing at that, Eric.
there is one step that the BT takes right next to Sam, and when he does, there seems to be Chiralium particles or crystals that like float around it. None of the other steps that he takes does that, except the one that's right next to Sam.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, it's very subtle. So yes, floating things, Chiralium seems to be related, but they seem to be impervious, so they are a good connection to both worlds, it seems. All right, she offers Sam a job at the Fragile Express, says there aren't very many left because there were many traitors. So it seems like trust is also an entropy here, along with everything else because of Timefall. So it's just like entropy seems to be a fantastic visual motif, and just also they're using it for like a motif as far as storytelling goes and everything. It just, everything's falling apart and nobody is connected, and they're going into bubbles. We're going to talk about this so many times, but this game came out in 2019 before COVID, and playing it after COVID, that'll mess with your head, right? Like,
yeah, it's way
Kojima see the
different
future?
now.
Like, was he prepping us? Like, it's crazy.
It just hits at something so specific about needing human connection, and now playing it, I played it during COVID, and it's like, oh, I kind of miss human connection, but like, being home isn't so bad. And now to be at the point where it's like, if I hadn't started this podcast, there were months where I would talk to basically nobody, and now I'm having meaningful conversations every week, and I feel connected to the world again. But like, this game is going to be a fantastic metaphor for like the struggles and post-COVID world that we are currently living in, even though he did not mean that. It came out like, I think, November 2019 or something like that, and then COVID was like within 6 months after that. Oof. It was wow. Uncanny. Good for you, man. And then like the game also has a lot of mechanics where it's like you are connecting to other players because they're leaving items for you and you're leaving items for them. And like playing that during COVID, none of you, I don't think, ever did, but like it was like a small way to feel like you're reaching out and and feeling the presence of somebody else, even if 4-dimensionally across time, because they left it forever.
I missed this game like right when it first came out, but I still played it like later 2020, so it was like still technically, it was like after lockdown kind of had lifted, but it was still kind of in the later throes of COVID. So, but yeah, the themes of connection and stuff, everything really, it's a through line that runs through the whole game, is connecting humans with other humans, connecting the world, connecting everything. There's big themes of connection. And that's evident in every part of the game, even in vocabulary and vernacular and what they refer to things as. It's yeah.
When did the game Journey come out? I can't remember.
For the Journey for the PS4,
the Santa Monica game.
Yeah, the one that's just like a couple of hours long or something.
Yeah, I think they partnered with this studio, so actually it might have just been like something they kind of touched on.
It was 2012, March 13th, 2012.
Okay, yeah. Just that one, you're interacting with real players quite a bit. You can't really complete the game unless there are other people trying to do it at the same time as you.
Interesting. I've never actually played Journey. It's one that's
it's great
on my list that I never got
just
around
a couple
to.
Hours.
I'm a little bit embarrassed to admit that when I first played the game, I did not know that the other characters in there were played by real people. I thought it was just really weird AI. But I wish I would have known that going in, because it would have made the whole interaction with another character more meaningful.
No, it's like
I was just like, this is a weird game. Like, what is going on? Why is it behaving this way? It doesn't make any sense.
Get like an hour and a half in, it's like, this is really weird AI. Why are they jumping and twisting in these weird ways? It doesn't seem to mean anything. It was a human.
Right. Yeah, who's just messing around with the game mechanics like I am. Yeah,
but like that's the whole point of the game, is for you to discover that as you go, and so it does pay off. Did you at least understand that before you finished?
Which part? That it was a real human?
Yeah.
No.
Oh,
no,
you just finished the game and okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I picked up at least like right before the end, but all right. Yeah, no, that would make it more meaningful. But yeah, now you
if the point was to discover that yourself, I do apologize for spoiling that for people who haven't played it. But I personally would have liked to have known that going in. I think I would have found more meaning in it. Yeah.
Like 12, 13 years ago. I think you're okay. They haven't played it. It's on them. And I'm one of those people. I haven't played it, so yeah.
All right. So she has invited him to Fragile Express. This company seems to be named after her. She says that she's been soaked from head to toe, so she herself is fragile, even though that's not why she was. She's fragile, but not that fragile. So she's not. That's not why she was named that way. But like Kojima is pretty ham-fisted.
It's funny.
So he's going to do what he's going to do.
Yeah, some of his symbolism is like really used with like a deft touch, and it's really complicated and intense and very strange. And then sometimes it's like, this character is fragile. What should her name be? Fragile. Like
and Bridget started Bridges. Like
yeah, and Bridget started Bridges. Like, which is like, it's this weird level. It's like this weird level of mixture of like deep creativity and I would say kind of shallow creativity that has this kind of like adorable weirdness to it that only Kojima does, that you watch and you're like, oh, he just, look at him making his weird stuff. I don't know how to explain it. I feel like, but I just am a big fan.
Yeah, it's curious when he chooses to do both, and I wonder if there is some specific thought process behind when he bifurcates that decision. Yeah. But naming, it seems to be the thing that he's like, you know what, their names are what they are.
Whatever.
And whereas symbolic things that are going on in the game, it's like, good luck with this one.
Well, in a little bit, you meet Dead Man and Die Hard Man, and that's the only names you ever call that. That's just what their names are. Like.
Yeah, I was writing down their names, and I wrote next to their names, like, is this a serious game? Yeah. We got Dead Man, we got Die Hardman, and then we got Eager, who is like Dr. Like helper assistant guy who's dealing with dead bodies, It's like, is this serious, or is it just like a big parody of some kind that I don't understand yet?
Yes to both. Yeah.
Okay. We'll buckle up.
All right, so as she's exiting the cave, her umbrella kind of vibrates as she holds it. It's very subtle. I didn't notice it the first couple times, but I had to rewatch this as I was preparing. And it's like, it's just sort of a... And right before it collapses, I was like...
Okay, yeah.
I don't know what this is. I don't know... is it...
She just got
interacting with the metaphysical world because of the Chiralium, because she's shaken off the time fall. I don't know what this is, but it's so subtle. It has to be intentional, and I'm curious, and so I had to throw it in there so that we remember it in case we find something later that connects to it. But it's like that kind of poring over every detail and never missing it at every moment. It's just, good for him. That's just so much. I think he said he only has like one game left in him at this point. Like, the amount of mental energy that he puts into a single game must be like taking years off of his life. All right. So he picks up the age picture. It's younger him with Bridget and someone else who is pregnant, maybe his wife. So we already talked about that. She alludes to the timefall not being able to wash away the past, and then she vanishes, similar to how I said Dead Man vanishes with the chirogram. So I don't know why she can, but I'm assuming we'll find out later. So you go to deliver your initial cargo of smart drugs to Central Knot City, and when you get there, you're greeted by the April Ludgate in glasses. And And so I thought this was interesting. She could just be there, but instead she decides to appear as a chirogram. I don't know if this is just like to introduce you to what these things are, but it's like it feels like during COVID when it's like everybody's just on Zoom. It's like, this isn't real connection. It's just a substitute.
I that was my immediate thought, was this is like a half connection. It's the substitute. Same with Dead Man. Like, Dead Man is in this city. He's at this facility. He could very easily just come walk over to you. It's not this huge, great distance he has to travel, but
maybe for a man of his size, but
maybe.
I think he could manage.
Yeah, I think he could manage. But yeah,
you heard it here first. Like, Jan's fat shaming Guillermo del Toro.
No, I just eat a salad. I don't know,
yeah.
But like. We've all been there. I've weighed so much more than I do, and then I figured it out. So I think you're allowed, as long as you've been obese, you can then say something, right? If you see something,
that's when it's sure. Fine. If that's mission structure you need to belittle somebody, go for it.
Tucker, do you feel like you've been there? You've overcome it. Now. Okay. Are you at your worst or not at your worst?
I'm pretty close to my worst.
Okay, well,
you're
holding it better than I remember.
Yeah. Thank you, appreciate it. Thanks, Eric, for being supportive of my obesity.
Yeah, of course. Anytime. You eat a cupcake. Do you, man?
No, but yeah, the point I'm trying to make is this time going through, this overarching theme of connection is all over the place. Like, I'm excited to talk about, like, when we talk about handcuffs, like, there's a lot of deep symbology around the handcuff cufflinks. And the connection they give you
like
to
how
the
they
world.
call them cufflinks, because they're cuffs and they link you. It's another one of those adorable naming conventions where he's just like, this works. We'll just call them cufflinks.
You know what? I have to think, like, in Japanese, there's probably some beautiful word for a lot of these things, and he's just English. In
Japanese,
I'm just going to do this.
Directly.
Yeah.
No, in Japanese, it's always a borrow word, and it's always just English. So this would be like kafurinku. Yeah, exactly.
It's a beautiful word.
Thank you.
So much better than cufflinks. But yeah, I think just this overarching theme of connection, of just these different levels of connection and what they mean and what you can get out of them and how it affects the human condition. And I think we see this through Sam's progression throughout this entire game. I mean, even in just these first two chapters, you see Sam's attitude change pretty heavily, especially when he meets, or I guess not meets Bridget, but when he sees Bridget, and past that point. So I think not just COVID, but I think there's this deep symbology of just levels of connection and what they mean, and nothing is a substitute for the real thing. You can get some of the aspects of it, but there's no substitute for true connection. And I think this is laying the groundwork for that theme throughout the rest of the game.
All right, after he delivers the special cargo, he gets a special commission Priority 1, and he walks out, and there's Igor, who is of the Bridge Corpse Disposal, the CD team. He goes to shake his hand, notices that Sam has a phobia. He's heard of this. It's in his file. But he says they have a body to dispose. This person... He's like, why wasn't this person in quarantine? He said it's because he committed suicide. They're lucky they found him. It had been about 40 hours. It sounds like after 48, 2 days is when they enter necrosis, and then they have a void out and explode Chiralium all over the place. So they got to get this place to the incinerator to stop this void out from taking out Central Knot. Central Knot City, not Capital Knot City. It's like
they're all knots. Close. Yeah, it's hard to keep
knots, which are another thing of connecting.
Another connection, knots and strands. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, but I like this part too, because Sam is like, well, why don't you just burn him here? And it gives a little more kind of lore as to why these bodies have to go to the incinerator. It's like, well, if you burn a body, it releases Chiralium into the atmosphere, and that draws in the BTs and causes time fallen, and so they have to take it to the incinerator in a controlled environment. They can't just burn bodies where they stand, which creates this like whole extra scenario of like when people die, the stakes are so much higher, especially in this post-apocalypse world where it's probably hard and people might want to die, but it creates this like almost sense of like duty and responsibility for your own life, because if you die, that creates a big problem for everyone around you. And
Please die responsibly.
Yeah, please die responsibly.
Please die in a coffin.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you're
at least
die,
3 feet
do it
under.
near a fire. Yeah. We'd really appreciate it. Help us out a bunch. Yeah.
All right. So the closest incinerator is north, but that route is crawling with BTs. They can't burn them right there because the Chiralium, as you said, and they can't get into the town's air, and then the BTs would show up. This is also great foreshadowing because when they get to the incinerator, and he's burning Bridget, that lets up Chiralium into the smoke in the air, and that immediately brings in the timefall. So, just great lore there. All right. So Chiralium is a substance emitted when interacting with the other side. It seems like, or I don't know. It seems like okay. So this dead person, we see as they're moving along, we see the inky black substance, which seems to be a liquid form of Chiralium, and it's starting to float. So we're getting, Chiralium causes that breaking of physics. So is this because like this dead body is transitioning to the other side, and so because like I don't think that they're implying that people have Chiralium in them at all times. Maybe they're contaminated, but I don't think it's like that. I think it's they sort of absorb Chiralium as they're transitioning.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I think that the absorption of Chiralium is what causes the void out. That maybe there's something about being alive that keeps this other side, that is a world full of death, that keeps that away. But then once life is gone from a body, it draws the Chiralium in until the Chiralium overtakes the body and causes a void out. I haven't done the research on that, like what specifically causes a void out in this world, but that makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm. And so I had a thought, we'll probably revisit it later, but it's like, well, then does burning them stop a transition to the other side? I don't know. That's some moral implications there for that dead person. Does it disrupt their transition to their heaven or something?
Well, it's also stated that when they do die and their bodies void out, it creates a BT. So maybe burning them grants their soul a better place to go, and if you don't, they turn into a BT.
Well, no, I think it's implied that like the other world is in the same world as ours, right? And it is simply through Chiralium that like we see these like two worlds coming together. I don't know. Isn't that world in our world? Man,
maybe.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out at some point.
Yeah.
No, but then like they go to the beach. It's like, is that the other side? I don't know. Are they both? No, that's a liminal space. That is a symbolic representation. That's like an individual. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll get there. All right. Okay, so they need him. He has dooms. He's going to be able to sense the BTs between them and the incinerator. He hovers his hand over the straps, and it levitates, similar to when the BT causes the particles to levitate in the cave. So, and this indicates the first stages of necrosis. It will cause a crater or void out if they don't hurry. They want... by the way, Igor tries to call him Sam Porter, and he stops him. He says, just Sam. So... for some reason, he's not comfortable with that last name Porter, even though that is his job. So I'm curious what there is there.
He's not defined by his career.
Says, I'd really prefer you call me Sam Barista, which is what I used to do. I can really identify more with that profession. Thank you very much. Yeah.
All right, so on the back of that vehicle, Igor plugs into a bridge baby, BB-28, I believe it is, and this plugs him into the other side, quote unquote. What is it that Michael says? What? Because I'm not a what? Quote unquote. What does he say there?
I don't know
I don't remember that line.
Yeah, all right. Shan's trying to make an Office joke.
Oh wait, no. Why? Because I'm not white. Quote unquote.
Or,
is that The Office?
It is the
because
Office.
I'm white.
Yes.
Quote unquote. Yeah.
That's it.
We got there. We figured out the reference, you guys. Yeah. Whew, thank heavens for that. I thought we were going to... I'm so glad that joke didn't fall flat.
We almost got canceled the second time.
People are very fragile about getting their beloved IP correct, and so we're charting into some dangerous territory with this kind of content. Although I am to understand, if you form a parasocial relationship with content creators, you are given a wide berth on being wrong about things because they just see you as human at that point. Whereas if you're doing like video essays, it's like, well, you just got a fact wrong, so this content down. Yeah. So I'm hoping that we're given latitude. Although I was called by my niece today to say, you got something wrong about The Last of Us Part 2. I just found out you got it wrong. And I was like, go leave a comment so you boost our algo. But but she said that.
What are you talking to me in real life for?
Go.
Put it in the comments.
She said in The Last of Us Part 2, which she's going through our podcast for like the third time, she said that we said something about like going to the church first, the synagogue, to get gas. And we were like, no, but it's always in the garage that you find it. It's like, that's just because that's the order we do it, but it's actually always the last place you go.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, so we just didn't know because we always go to the synagogue first because it's the first place there when you enter Seattle. So it's just good game design, but all right. But yeah, so we got it wrong. So we're entering the correction here in Death Stranding episode 1.
So yeah, we'll leave a tag here.
Link it back.
Clip it, and we'll put it at the end of that other video. There will be a timestamp in the comments for the Last of Us video leading you to right here so that you can
we always have to get at least a handful of things wrong to boost engagement.
Yeah.
Rage bait is very effective.
Yeah, I don't want to
Should we
be
start
a
getting
part
things
of
wrong
the
on
problem
purpose?
with
Yeah.
game culture where it's all negativity. Like, it's just because the algorithm loves negativity, and so all gamers out there are the worst, most toxic, disgusting people out there, and so there's no positive gaming conversations, which is what I'm trying to do. So we'll probably go nowhere with it.
Yeah, Shanna's being positive by calling all other gamers negative, toxic,
Bunch of toxic
crappy
idiots.
people.
You know
super
what you
positive.
did.
Unlike the other dummies.
We
on the
know
internet.
what happened with Gamergate. We see you for the conmen and grifters that you are. You're just feeding off the algorithm. I don't even know if they believe what they say. They just want the money. All right, whatever. A tangent for another day. You see on the BB contraption that he has, the Bridge Baby bottle. I don't know. That there is a keychain of an astronaut with a skull, and this is the Kojima Productions logo that you see at the beginning of the game when you see the astronaut in space with the skull face. So I thought that was a fantastic little Easter egg. Yeah, Igor has a suit. It says Bridges, the United Cities of America. So just fragmentation. Everybody is living very atomized lives, and his mom, Bridges, is an ideologue who believes in Reconstructionism and says that human race won't survive unless you bring them back together. So, but yeah, I love the note that it's United Cities because it feels fragmented. Even though you say cities there, it's like it's small, it's broken.
Well, it makes the cities that are all named after knots feel like knots on a larger strand. If it's the United States, it means we're like sharing borders. They're big plots of land that like sit right next to each other. But these cities are pinpoints on a map. They're little knots that connect these strands of the rope. And so it really further enforces that visual idea of these cities being knots and the strand, and you're using strands to connect them.
All right, this is where Igor starts talking about the USA was different when he was a kid, and he starts talking about it's how we understand it. So I thought this was a great way to establish that this is our world. This is just in the future. Where things are broken, and so it gives us
and not
like
in
a
the
heuristic.
distant future, which I think is really cool. Like we're within one generation of normalcy.
Yeah, because Igor says that he remembered a time when all of those things, when our world was how we know it now.
Yeah, and this might play into the game later, where it's like, well, Igor, he doesn't seem much older than Sam. Like, was he before or after? I guess is he born after? Is he a kid after? Does he have some tether to the original world? I don't know. But it's just like everybody's right there on the cusp if they're around Igor's age, is what it's implying. I assume Sam was maybe born right after if Igor was a kid, but I don't know. We'll figure it out. But I love that this gives us a simple heuristic for like, no, this is your world, and so you can take some shortcuts as far as understanding how this world works. It's just that things were, in a sci-fi way, broken when the Death Stranding event took place. That introduced all of these anomalies. All right, so Death Stranding effed up the world. Survivors were washed away with the timefall. Then the beach freak showed up, and the living and dead mixed together. So he is a national. He's a purist. He doesn't like the dead mixing. There has to be a word for a person that only wants living type people to be living, to not be commingling with dead people, right?
Maybe like a normal person.
Living nationalist.
Yeah, a living nationalist.
Person with completely normal and natural desires. Is that what we could call that?
Life supremacist.
Yeah.
Life supremacist.
There it is. That's it.
It's got a nice ring to it. Yeah.
I think we're sticking with that. I was gonna ask AI to come up with something. It's like, no, that's just better.
Nope, life supremacist.
Igor is a life supremacist. Yeah. You think if we say the word supremacist too many times,
we're gonna hit some sweet white ring algorithms on YouTube, and
gonna really affect our fan base. Yeah.
You remember on New Girl when Schmidt and Cece's boyfriend, what's his name, and they start talking about Robbie, and they start talking about white guy power. Guy power. You got to stop it with that.
Cece wants to date another Indian person. She wants to get fixed up, and they're like, "No, she should be with one of us." Yeah, white power. No, can't say that. White guy power. That's not better.
And then he just starts chanting it later in the episode.
Yeah.
It's white guy power. Right?
Hilarious.
Oh my gosh. All right. Then he said, after that event of the Death Stranding, people holed up in cities, and couriers like Sam became legendary. So he's kind of like the connective tissue, even though he himself is an isolated person. So that's interesting. That's when you see the rainbow appear, and it's inverted. So this is a harbinger of the timefall and of BTs. And you see the ink strands starting to come up from the necrotic body. So they are running out of time. They got to get to the incinerators. So they have to take a risky shortcut through the BTs. And the Odger deck pops out. So this is the reference to The Cares of a Family Man in 1917 by Kafka.
Bless you.
So yes, it's coming. The Odger deck, as described in Kafka's story, is a strange, inexplicable, sentient object that haunts the narrator. It's described as something like a flat, star-shaped spool of thread, and indeed it does seem to have a thread wound upon it. Now and then it shows up in the hallway or on the stairs. It stays in the house for months at a time and then disappears for long periods. It seems alive, or at least aware, and the narrator is obsessed with its meaningless existence. He fears it will outlive him and mock his mortality with its purposeless existence. And just, there's something so eerie about that. It's like, this thing has no point to existing, but me with purpose, it will outlive me. And he's filled with existential dread at the existence of this like star-shaped thing with thread wound around it. It's like it's the weirdest description of a thing. But that's what the Odger deck looks like.
Mm-hmm. What is the Odger deck? I'm missing the vocabulary.
It's thing attached to
the
BB.
little flashlight that tells you
it's the star-shaped thing with like threads and stuff coming off it. It's exactly as Kafka described in his book. And so it's semi-sentient and aware, even though it's not alive. And so so he borrowed this directly from this book.
Didn't know that. Interesting.
So that thing, Odger deck, that works when it's plugged into a BB. Is that correct? Or
it points to BTs and threats when it's connected to a BB, as you're saying. So it's like sort of directing the connection from the BB.
Well, and
so
it's faster the closer you get to. So
so it's a tool for people without dooms to be aware of BTs. So the BBs were giving, I guess, normies a level of dooms where they could survive and be aware of BTs around them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so they now have level 1. So whatever, or maybe they have level 2. I don't know. Maybe they can sense, but no, because they still need Sam, even though he's not connected.
Yeah.
Right.
So they have level 1 with BB28. All right, so as they're driving along, they get knocked over, and they see a bunch of crabs strewn about. So this is that connection to the beach, where just like a bunch of sea creatures just are dead when the BTs are around. And, okay, I was confused at first. He appears to have red glitter on his leg, and it took me a while to realize it really was just blood. It was just weirdly rendered.
Okay.
Did it?
Yeah, I think it was just with the moisture from the time fall. It just, it is.
No, I had the exact same thought too. But then when you
maybe it's
meet
mixed
up
with
Chiralium
Chiralium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so then it looks over at the body bag. It's black and inky with a shiny gold face on the head area of the body bag. And it starts shaking, and you see the crystallized Chiralium, floating away from the golden face. At least if I'm not wrong, the black ink is the liquid Chiralium, and the gold is the crystallized Chiralium. Because we also see as the body bag disappears into the ground, you also see the gold mask disappear into the black ink. So I don't know, maybe it's liquidating.
Yeah, the visual imagery of this void out happening is just, again, I'm going to say this a million times as we're talking about Death Stranding, but just like, it's so weird and so creative and so like, well, what should happen when bodies die? After 48 hours, they cause a void out and it explodes as they're trying to cross over to the other side. And well, what should that look like visually? It's like, well, why don't we have them like start to secrete an inky black substance that floats up into the sky, and then their heads shake around violently, and they wear a gold mask, and then they sink into the ground in a puddle of oil. And it's like, yeah, of course, let's do that. Like, it's just so
son of a bitch, I'm
weird.
in.
Like,
Yeah.
Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
But I love it. It's so detached from reality and strange and creepy and weird. Oh, and also fun fact about this this section, the truck driver, the truck falls on him and he's trying to, he gets trapped underneath the truck. Did anyone recognize the pained screams voice actor? Did that sound familiar to anyone? It should have. No, that is Yuri Lowenthal. The guy that plays
Spider-Man.
Games.
Yeah.
I never noticed that, but he's done a surprising amount of like smaller parts in video games, like lots of extra little voices here and there. And so I was like, he was screaming. I was like, that sounds a lot like Spider-Man. I looked it up, and sure enough, Yuri Lowenthal. So there you go.
I did not hear it at all, and we literally just finished Spider-Man.
Yeah, we just played that one like a week
like
ago.
For like 30, 40 hours of Spider-Man, and I did not hear it.
A quick gameplay question here for you guys. When you're kind of speeding along in the truck before it tips over and the void out happens and everything, there's a point where you can kind of look around, like you can look at Sam and Igor, or you can look out the back a little bit. I played most of this on my Steam Deck, and I found at that point when I was trying to look around, it moved very, very slowly.
Yep.
And that was really annoying because I wanted to look around and see what was happening, because you could hear stuff happening around you, but I could never move quick enough to look where I wanted. Was that just because of the device I was playing on, or is that like an intentional thing?
And I gave up.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that they're wanting you to really focus on the body in the truck. Like that there's a world around you and there are things happening around you, but this is the focal point. This is the threat. This is what's going on. This is the threat. And it's like you could like look up at Igor while he's talking. And this happened to me while you look up at Igor, you listen to him talk for a minute, and then you look back down, and then a body that was normal a minute ago, there's some liquid Chiralium lifting off of it, and he's starting to move his head back and forth a little bit, and it's like, oh man, he's about to blow. We got to get him to the incinerator, and it immediately ups the stakes. So I think that they want you to really focus on that body. That's probably why they restricted the camera movement.
Yeah, so you get the tension of those sounds. It's like they're getting closer, but this is bad. Yeah, so the car gets flipped, the driver's stuck, and he's aging from the time fall, and the BT comes, and you see his handprints on the car, and they're now just like in the cave, they're disobeying the laws of physics. They're moving on a vertical space. So it's just more surrealist, uncanny stuff. Fantastic. So the body bag kind of disappears into liquid ink, and above him we see a translucent figure, as we did at the exit of the cave. And these are whatever those floaty creatures are that we see at the beach in opaque form later on. So
to
the
me,
beach
they're the
freaks are here.
giants from Majora's Mask, because we just played Majora's Mask.
Yeah, probably.
So,
that
that's
sense.
probably it.
All right, so the ink is sentient, which I don't know that we knew that up until this point, because it then attacks the driver. Igor shoots the driver, and then the man in black. Okay, so we see a man in black float down with his own BB and his own Odra deck.
The baby.
And he has a gold mask, and he holds his finger up to tell him to be quiet, and then he points to where the BTs are. I don't know that Igor can see this guy. I think they intentionally directed it so that you couldn't tell if he could see it, but I don't know. But we'll figure
that hadn't
out.
occurred to me, but maybe. Yeah.
Also, Scott, so this is played by Troy Baker, who is Joel, and what is his other big thing? Well, he's done like 100 things.
The other Drake, Nathan Drake's brother in Uncharted.
Sam
Drake. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And like a million other things. He's played Batman
At least
and
a million
Joker,
other
and he's in so many things. Yeah.
Yeah, so this guy, he has a gold mask, and this is, obviously directly related to the necrotic body bag with the gold face, and then later we see that giant BT with a golden face, and then we see golden hand. So this is a motif, but he appears to be a living person, but with markers of death. So he seems to be some kind of in-between character who flirts with death very readily. He likes that stuff. But why is he warning them of the BTs?
He's not. He's bragging. He's like, this guy is about to mess you up.
I was really confused about that whole interaction.
But instead, Igor seems to be not responding to that guy. He's responding to his own BB and his own Odra deck freaking out. So that's why I was like, can he tell, or is he just responding to his own device? I wasn't sure. All right, so Igor's BB freaks out, BB-28. Igor starts shooting, just randomly, I believe. Let's see. He drops his BB in the ink. He just, tosses it, and he gets grabbed by the inky BTs in the ground. So they're both, translucent figures, and when the ink is now, the sentient ocean or puddle or whatever, now the BTs can sort of materialize and grab you from the other world that way, it seems. Later we also see crystallized chiralium, those gold things coming up from the ground, and they always appear to be hand-like in shape, and this is similar to the hands grabbing to try to pull Igor, or no, his driver to the other side before Igor shoots him. So I'm wondering if it's are those crystallized chiralium, are those from timefall evaporating or whatever and leaving that crystallized BT trying to reach up? I don't know. But yeah, so Igor tries to shoot himself because he doesn't like where this is going, and he's like, I'd rather be dead than get anywhere near that BT. And he gets snapped up by the leg, and he misses, and everything starts floating. He stabs himself to death viciously,
which is very upsetting.
Yeah, that was rough.
Not a fun thing to watch.
Yeah, Sam takes the BB, but yeah, everything's floating, the car and everything. So this is an insane amount of chiralium, and we see this giant materialized BT creature with golden hand, and the nubby fists with tendrils coming out and into the ground, as if he's controlling the black ink or something, and then he's got an umbilical cord.
Oh, and remind me, does he have something weird for a head?
A gold hand.
Oh yeah, he's got a big hand for instead of a head, which is Just again, very weird, unsettling character design.
So he kind of like levitates Igor into his hand.
Oh, that's
face,
right.
And then snaps him up, and then the hand disappears for a split second, like a couple frames before there's a void out. And so I don't know what that means. Like, why would the Chiralium golden hand head disappear lore wise? But yeah, so there's a void out, everything blows up, and Sam is dead. But he brought the BB with him.
Right. So this is where we really learn that like Sam is a repatriate, which means that he...
Unless you died earlier like me.
What?
I died at the beginning of the game because I ran off a cliff accidentally.
And not in that case. Then the game's just over. You lose. But yeah, Sam, if he dies, it will create a void out, but he'll still come back to life.
Yeah.
Which is, a bummer.
So I was curious if you could make anything out of all of the symbolic things attached to this BT, because it's a very symbolic creature. It's got a lot going on for itself.
Even having played this game before, this opening part of the game really just throws you so far into the deep end of the weirdness of the lore of this world that I've, even having played before, I felt kind of lost with what exactly was going on. Okay. So no, I don't have any thoughts about the symbolism of this giant BT monster.
Yeah, I mean, I can speculate, and I have no idea how much any of it is accurate or not, but it's interesting to see Sam, who has, I can't remember the name of his phobia.
Aphasmophobia.
Aphasmophobia, thank you. Yeah. And he doesn't like touch, but he's covered in handprints. And then we see this giant BT, and it has a hand for a head, right? But it doesn't have hands itself. And we've seen a couple of times with Igor trying to shake his hand, and which is just a way to connect with people. I don't know if there's something about connection and hands and Sam being covered in hands. I don't know, but that kind of stood out to me.
Yeah, hands are everywhere, and so I feel like this just has to be intentionally representing the ability to reach out and grab something, so this is a connection thing. As for whatever, the tendrils, that seems to be an umbilical cord is a connection thing. Like, other than that, it's just weird, and I think I just have to move on.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of different... I mean, I'm excited to get through and try to dissect what the hell this game is. But I think this time going through, just hands represent a different type of connection than umbilical cords. There's different information that is passed. There's different, umbilical cord passes nutrients where a handshake doesn't. And so I think there's a lot of different, depths of connection we can dive into here. But at this point, handhead.
Grasping at.
It's a problem for another day. Yeah,
it's a problem for another day.
We're gonna cross that bridge later.
Yeah, I mean, I think as we continue to play and dive more into the symbology, I think, we're four smart-ish people that I think we can get there.
Yeah, I'd say that we're at least medium smart.
Yeah.
All right, so then Sam awakens on the beach, and he's naked and handcuffed with his cufflinks, so they're not really handcuffs. But this is interesting because technically he didn't have those before he died. So he gets those afterwards. So this seems to be representing this isn't a real place, because his physical body is dead from the void out, and he's been recovered to Capital Knot City. And Deadman's, going over, he's already put the cufflink on him. And so that's why he has it here in this other space. So this other space seems to be outside of time and space. So it seems to be a liminal space of sorts, a transitional state between the living and dead, if I had to guess.
They called it the seam, is that right?
No, the seam is where he repatriates. So that's where his body is. And then he swims to that, and that seam brings him back to the land of the living.
But this in-between area is the beach, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I really love, again, I'm a visual guy. I like the visual, what happens here when you're in the process of repatriating, where you have to swim to your body, and then it like the camera zooms in to Sam's mouth and goes down his esophagus, and then there's a baby in there that like is sucking his thumb and like, hey, thumbs up, and then it like zooms back out of it, and it's just like, what is even going on? I don't even sort of understand the symbolism behind that. I'm hoping that as I continue to play more that I'll find some thoughts on that, but I didn't want to look up the answer. I wanted to see if I could come up with my own answer for that, and I just came up with nothing. It's so completely out of left field that I don't know what that could symbolize, but I think it's very visually interesting and has, from a storytelling perspective, really captivated my curiosity to see what in the world that could be. It's so weird.
If you die before you get to the beach here with BB, you repatriate at the seam just the same way, except inside of your throat is a doll baby instead of BB. And it's creepy, and it looks like, you know, the hairless, one-eyed baby. It's exactly what I'm getting at. It looks like that thing. So Sid has had his way with this thing. That kid. It's just fantastic. We all know what I'm talking about.
Exactly. Yeah, the one-eyed baby monster, the baby doll monster from Toy Story. Yeah.
No, I know, but I'm just like Sid himself, just like the way he cackles and laughs as he's like blowing up toys.
Oh yeah.
Just so funny.
Classic.
All right. So as he's there on the beach, he's crying. But what's interesting is that there are no tears. So this isn't Chiralium. And this is how he actually cries.
Yeah, he's cradling a baby and crying on the beach. And it makes, like, I wonder what about repatriating is, I'm sure that there's, in some way, it's a very harrowing experience, that it's probably not a walk on the beach. But,
yeah, there you go. It's a long walk on the beach. All right. You even had nowhere else to go after that sentence. You just had to walk.
That was it. That was the end of the joke. I just stopped talking. Yeah.
All right. So, as he's crying, he grabs the BB. So I'm curious why he feels so emotionally connected to this. At least, like, he seems more emotionally connected to it here than he did in the other world. But the baby disappears, and then he sees ink hands crawling down his leg. So the baby now, at least in this liminal space, is a BT monster, and I don't know how real that is versus in his head. Who knows? Maybe it's like, is BB also going to his seam where he needs to repatriate? So BB is also a repatriate?
Yeah, that was something that I was going to ask about as well, and I don't know the ramifications of that.
I wonder if a bridge baby is inside of its pod, can it be harmed from... No, never mind. I'm pretty sure that it could be harmed. So strike. I was having.
Yeah, they were going to incinerate it.
Halfway through was incorrect. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So walks down his leg out to the water where you see many dead fish and other sea animals, and so I was curious about like why he was sad about BB, but also what do they? So he also looks at his hands after BB disappears, and he has ink hands. And so, is this supposed to represent he has some repressed guilt of something, or he feels guilty about it? I don't know.
Right, you were talking earlier about the photograph and how it was of a pregnant woman, and we're wondering if it was perhaps his wife or something like that. And so maybe he's grieving the loss of a potential baby or a baby that was lost.
Oh, that would make
maybe
him
it was
sad.
Like that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you for helping me connect that. I could not place it. It was a tragic death.
Remind me, has he plugged into BB yet? I can't remember if he did it at the...
Right?
Yeah. I think he grabs BB after Igor drops it, but he doesn't plug in, I don't think. No, he doesn't.
I thought he didn't?
He plugs in at
he
the
does
incinerator.
just after this, yeah.
Because
that's right.
That's when he gets level 3
that's like,
dooms.
Yeah, and that's when he has the first kind of memory thing. So I say that would explain the connection he has to BB on the beach, but that hasn't happened yet. So
all right, so He also has like a C-section of sorts. So it's like it feels like a baby was pulled out of his abdomen, but I don't know what's going on there. And then the dog tag things we'll find out later. And he's we see he's butt naked. That's fantastic.
Who doesn't love a butt naked Norman Reedus? Yeah. If you know what, if you are into that, then this is the game for you because it happens often.
You know what? People were mad thirsty for Norman after The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
right. So we see the 5 floating, fully opaque figures now, and then they disappear. And then we also see tendrils in the water. So like, I thought that this was interesting, right? Because a Death Stranding like is a real event where animals get beached and they die, obviously. And I thought this was like a beautiful symbolic way of representing that the ocean is this connective element for all sea creatures, and losing that connective element is what kills them.
I like that.
And so you see all of them on the beach, and they're all alone and dead. Like they're all dead near each other, but it's like they lost the thing that connects them, and that's why they're dead. I love that. And that just clicked barely like today, so that's great. I'm sure everybody else who has ever played this game understood that.
I feel like this is one of those games where different people get a lot of different things, and to get a lot out of it, you really have to compare notes because it's just there's so much going on.
That's what this is for.
Yeah.
All right. Then we see the title screen, Death Stranding. So it's as if this is. It's a fantastic placement of it because it's like, yes, we got through all of the exposition of the beginning, but also it's like it's representing this is a Death Stranding. So it's just great timing to place that title card. And then you hear London Bridge is falling down, and a lady in red walks past you. I thought this was interesting. She's fully clothed. He's naked. What's going on there? Why is she allowed to be clothed? Also, everything's deeply desaturated, but she is in very vibrant red, so she's got femme fatale vibes going on. And London Bridge. I just got it. Because London Bridge is a connection that is... okay, that's obvious.
What could the song about London Bridges have to do with connection?
I just didn't think about it.
Organization called Bridges.
I just thought it was one
the
of
only
those
way it could be more on the head
things.
would be like U.S. bridges just falling down.
All right. Well,
we'll figure it out someday.
It's a good thing that we're here to really help you understand this game, Shan. I'm glad that we can.
All right. So he walks out to the ocean. He's pulled underwater. Everything's, deeply tonally blue now, in a way that's hyper exaggerated. After all the black contrasting tone while he was on the beach. And you look up and you see floating bodies, and you see a giant shadow monster kind of float over the top of the ocean. Don't know what that is. Yeah. I assume we'll find out. I know we'll find out.
Yeah. There's lots of let's put a pin in this for later situations in these first few hours of the game.
If there's one thing I remember from the playing the game, you'll find out what that thing is. Anyway, so then he floats down and into his own dead mouth, and he sees a baby that gives him the thumbs up, so we already talked about this. And he sees a vision of Mads Mikkelsen calling him BB and taking him away, and he's in that container. It seems like he's from the POV of BB, and it seems to be like in that fetal BB container that they use for the Odra deck.
I wanted to just take a second to say that I am completely enamored with every second that Mads Mikkelsen is on screen in this game. Mm-hmm. He steals every moment. Like, I think that all of the other actors do a very excellent job. It's a very well-acted game, with the exception of Guillermo del Toro, which is Tucker's favorite person. But I particularly...
Be so angry about that.
Mads Mikkelsen in this game he just is electrifying, steals the show. I love every minute that he's on screen.
Yeah, like I'm fine with Norman Reedus, but he is very intentionally casted for being like a person who's kind of flat and not very lively,
low
because he's
affect.
isolated and recluse at this point. But like Mads Mikkelsen, this is where I realized that he's one of the greatest actors of our time. And then like right after, no, it was like right before. He was in the first or second Doctor Strange.
The first one.
Oh, okay, so that was before that. That was
Quite a bit before that.
November 4th, 2016 is when that movie came out. So, and this came out in like November of 2019.
All right, you're just gonna pull that date out of your butt.
Should we look it up?
No, I trust you. You said it with such confidence that I have no reason to disagree.
Release date. October 13th, 2016. All right, I got
Yeah.
it.
feel really.
What did you have for breakfast that day, Shan?
How embarrassing
No, it was
for you.
right around other events in my life. I think something else in my life took place on the 4th, and it was right around this date. But all right, that's probably why I got mixed up. So anyway, it's like he's a great actor. It's like, and I felt like he's now been wasted in everything else that's not something that lets him do what he did in this. You know.
Yeah.
Like everything should be Oscar worthy that this guy touches, but you'll find out.
He's your Meryl Streep.
No, because I dislike Meryl Streep.
I know, but he's your Meryl
It's-
Streep.
He's anathema
what
to
Meryl
Meryl
Streep
Streep.
to the world is what that I don't know what that phrasing is.
All right, well that was a waste
I'm a little
of
too
time.
sleepy for.
Yeah. Little peek behind the curtain as it's getting late here for some of us, and we're getting droopy-eyed.
Yeah. All
Tucker's
right,
jokes
so-
aren't landing. Shan's not getting his dates right. You know, it's just a mess over here.
October 16th. All right, so yeah, as far as like being in his throat, that seems also like a connection thing of some way, but I just don't want to get into that yet. Well, maybe
I
something
feel like
else
that's something that we can figure out another time. I mean, I don't think it's a spoiler to say that that's not the only time we see a similar situation to that.
You're gonna die so many times in this game.
Yeah.
And we know that Mads Mikkelsen is BB's daddy. All right, so that's as far as we know about this Flash here. And so he repatriates back to the real world, and he vomits up some inky black cryptobiotes. So for some reason they're still alive. I don't know what's going on there
Can't die.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Gotta have anti-gravity toilets too. When you poop them out, they'll fly away.
He's not a chewer. He likes to. I loved as a kid like eating mac and cheese without chewing, and now I feel like that would kill me. But that's probably what he's doing with his cryptobios. It's just like a spoonful of crypto.
So it's like
Shane, don't
Mandarin
you have to
oranges
chew
this year.
things like obsessively?
Now I do.
Like, yeah, so like,
Yeah.
can you not take pills very easily?
No, I could take pills. Well, I mean, with water. I could take pills without water. Actually, I
okay.
pop like as many as I want. But it's meat. It's meat that will get stuck in there, as Scott knows.
That's what it is.
I was at a work dinner with Scott, and that's where I decided, while eating this $80 steak, to choke on the meat and then have to
Like
throw
second
that out.
bite or something.
Second bite of this $100 plus meal, and I then couldn't eat anything. I was in the bathroom trying to make myself throw up for the rest of the night, and for 24 hours, and then I went into the hospital because I didn't want to pay for overnight ER. So I fell asleep on a towel where I would just like allow myself to drool while I was sleeping.
All I'm picturing is I think you should leave. Where he's like, what's all going on out there? When he's like trying to not let the guy know he's joking.
Don't do the voice. No, what I need to do now is to create a hot dog vacuum for something that I cannot talk about because it'll I cannot talk about it without breaking down in tears. It's extremely embarrassing. All right, Scott, we'll send you the link afterwards. We quote Tim Robinson a lot now.
Yeah, it is one of the most quotable shows, I think. I mean, I would dare say it's more quotable than The Office. For the length of episodes it is, versus 9 seasons, there's 3, And
as far as sketch comedy goes, it is the best that's ever been made. Period. Although it's like, what's weird, it's like,
dude. Yeah.
it's like it's the best comedy I've ever seen, or it's like this is unwatchable, and there was like no in between.
Wait, is that the guy? He's got a movie coming out about
With
friendships or something. What is that one called?
Friendship, yeah, and Kate
Friendship?
Kate
Okay.
Mara, I believe. Yeah,
Is
it's
Tim
an
Robinson?
A24 film, and and he's like, "Hey, I scheduled you something like I scheduled you to have dinner with that guy." He's like, "You don't know my schedule." It's just, I am here for that movie. We'll send you some of his best stuff right after this.
Yeah, please do.
All right. So then he tears up because the Chiralium. He looks at the crater, and he sees some black strands descending from the sky, and a massive effing hand in the center. And just, I didn't see a hand at the bottom of that BT.
Face palm.
Yeah, that thing was
I
its
made
head.
the joke. It's an actual face palm.
That is really good.
I really wish that I had thought of a better way to work that into a joke instead of just shouting out facepalm because it's
Eric,
such a
right
clearly
now we'll
awesome
record
pun.
it and we'll plug it back in. We're gonna force you to do another joke.
Yeah, that's I'll think of a good joke and then I'll say it at the end of the recording. We'll crop it in later. That's not at all awkward or weird.
No.
And then it
We're 2 on
repeats.
'em.
Then it repeats. Once there was an explosion, a bang which gave life to life as we know it, and then came the next explosion, an explosion which will be our last.
Wait, was
So-
that Norman Reedus? Oh wait,
That
it's
was
just
Norman
Shan.
Where did Shan go?
That was amazing.
Uncanny.
Like I was there.
So
I was
at the
in
beginning,
Death Stranding.
at the beginning we hear this quote, and it feels like, okay, is this an event that's already taken place? But now that we see this massive effing hand in the ground, we're like, oh no, this is something that's going to happen. Even though we've already had the Death Stranding already took place and wiped out most of civilization. Sounds like something else is coming, and it'll be the last.
Death
one.
Stranding 2.
Death
This
Stranding,
time.
another one.
Electric Boogaloo. Yeah. So we clearly are not going to finish talking about episode 1 today. That is just the prologue.
I bet we could. I bet we could fit episode 1 and 2, or episode 1 and 2.
1 and 2
together.
maybe. Yeah,
and then
a lot
and
of
3 is a
exposition
long
here.
one, and then we could probably do 3 as its own. I think that's
Yeah,
that would probably work.
2 feels like it's just you're just fetching missions the entire time.
Yeah.
And that's it.
But yeah, we had planned to talk about more today, and we
Plus-
clearly couldn't because we just too much to dissect here.
Plus, you get like the duality of like Bridget and Amelie being the first 2 episodes. That would be a great pairing. Plus, episode 3 is 8 hours. Who knows? It feels like an effing eternity. So it's
Scott
best to
just
do that
died a
all
little
at
bit
once.
inside.
I think I stopped. The first time I played through Death Stranding, I stopped about halfway through chapter 3 because I was like, this game's never going to end. And and then I came back to it and I finished the rest of the game like super fast, just like ba 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 ba. Like,
Yeah.
but chapter
The
3
only-
does drag on for a minute, or is it 4? I don't remember.
It's
either
3.
or
I
4.
I thought it was 4, and I looked up. It's 3. But
Okay.
the only way to like get through this game and have a good experience is for somebody to tell you exactly what to expect with the pacing and the mechanics. If you don't know that you're here for the story, not the mechanics, and that episode 3 is going to be the longest period of time in your entire life, if you don't know those like handful of things, then you'll put this game down and you won't finish it.
Yeah. I will say I want to, not today because we're coming close to our time here, but I think that maybe in like a bonus episode, maybe after we kind of wrap this Death Stranding series, I'd love to talk about why this gameplay is so engaging, because it's deliberately slow and kind of
At first.
deliberately kind of boring. But I still love it and I find it engaging, even though it's not super engaging on a surface level. And so
You have ADHD.
another time I think we can talk about why that is and what it is about that gameplay loop that really gets its hooks into you, even though it's basically just the whole game is a series of fetch quests.
Yeah, I had written down just to you want to talk about like why is this gameplay the backdrop for this just crazy immersive weird story, and I'm excited to
All right.
I appreciate the heads up. That'll be helpful as we get into that section, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, and it's just like, again, like right after episode 3, it's like, there's other pacing to it, but it's like some episodes are like 30 minutes and 60 minutes, like boom, 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 and you're almost done. Like, so it's just that one.
How many episodes are there?
14, and then 15 is like the epilogue, I believe. I might be off by one, but something like that.
Yeah, there's some parts where it's basically a movie, and just gear up.
That's just
spend
Kojima
2 hours.
Kojima.
Yeah.
He's always wanted to be a director, but he knows video games, and so he gets exactly what he wants. Is he made
so he's like,
video
you know
games
what?
into movies?
I'm gonna have my cake and eat it too.
Oh, I love that.
All right. Any other like details or whatever about this intro section that, like, as I was pushing along, that you wanted to mention?
I'm good.
No. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, family relationships are going to be super cool and weird to dissect in the next episode. Especially age gaps, and it's going to be weird.
I am curious to learn more about the repatriating process itself, because the city itself was destroyed. Like it's gone. I don't know if it was an explosion or just like a single event where things are now just gone or what. But like, what happened to Sam's body? Like, and what is he now? Like, I would have figured that his body would have been destroyed as well in the event, but it wasn't, or it's something new, or I'm curious if we learn more about that, or if it's just kind of like one of those hand wavy things, like don't think about it too much. You're back to life. That's what's important.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think you ever get to see it, but like, I don't know, maybe there's something to him like reconstituting while he's going through that beach space, or I don't know.
Okay. Because he's naked on the beach, and then when he comes to, he's already
bare
in the
blue
city.
butt.
Right. Yeah. And then when he comes to, he's like all dressed and he's in the city, so we didn't really see too much there. Okay. Yeah, I was just curious
Well,
how
that
all worked.
Not.
I should see where it started, but I saw where it ended.
Well, there's this other sketch by Tim Robinson where he wants to pitch an idea to Corncob TV, and it's called like Coffin Flop or something.
Whoa! It's not already it's a show already.
It's already a full show.
Yeah.
and
if Spectrum drops Corncob TV, you're gonna miss out on Coffin Flop.
Yeah, and I can't spoil for you, but just like dead bodies, Coffin Flop. You'll make the connection. We'll send you the link.
Okay.
All right. Well, then that's going to do it for us today. Please like, comment, subscribe. You'll find us wherever you find your podcast. There are probably other places that have podcasts, and we just don't know about it. But you'll find out the obvious places. How about that? And no promises. And then obviously go get Eric's Indie Corners. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Outro. Bleekadoof, bleebadee, bloopity blow.